Welcome to the Up Podcast, raw real talk on everything young parenting.
From self-care, co-parenting, and family planning, to balancing school, work, relationships, and goals.
Together, we're challenging society's assumptions and building a safe and supportive community for young parents.
One honest conversation at a time. So join us on the journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Yup podcast. Today we are going to be talking about parenting journeys, parenting styles, all things parenting. We do have a special guest today whom I will allow to introduce themselves, but as always, it's your co-host Divine.
And I'm Brandy. And yes, we have a super special guest. Her name is Keona Rose. She is amazing. She has been a part of Yup for years now. She has content on the website. She's on our Youth Advisory Council. And she's just a really great asset. So without further ado, Keona, welcome. We'd love to hear a little bit about you and your journey.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And hi, this is my first time on a podcast, so I'm a little nervous. A little bit about me. My name is Keona Rose. I live in Tucson, Arizona. I'm a mother of four, 5, 3, 2, and about to be 6 months. I became a young parent at 19. I'm now 24. I also work in youth advocacy, advocating for youth with lived expertise of varying ranges, from foster care, homelessness, substance abuse, and that's about it. I just try my best to be everything, everywhere, all at once, and I'm just glad to be here with y'all today.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. And just from that little intro, as you said, you have a little bit of a full house going on over there. So to start things off, can you tell us a little bit about how maybe your parenting approaches has changed? Like maybe from just pregnancy to then your first child to your second and like to where you are now?
Yeah, thank you. That is a really great question. So for me, I became a parent at 19, and it was really like rapid fire for me. Starting with my first child, me and my fiance were totally caught off guard. I was in the middle of experiencing homelessness, aging out of the foster care system. It was really hard for us. And I really didn't want my child to go through my lived experiences. So I was very determined to create the life that I wanted as a child. And I dedicated myself. I worked part time while my fiance worked full time. And I was able to navigate resources at the same time and find our first apartment and move in. And then while I was trying to kickstart my advocacy career and pursue school, I ended up pregnant with my second son, and that pressured us even more. Like, okay, I really need to graduate. I really want to solidify my career. I really want to continue advocating for youth. So I continued working. I found more remote work. I started to get recognized a little bit more nationally on my remote work for my advocacy. My fiance started to find more full-time work in his career field, and he was able to be more present as a father and work more while I stayed home with the kids. And we were able to move into another apartment due to my increasing advocacy work and my work in the community. So that really helped us in terms of like financial stability. And that was really nice. And then I became pregnant with my first daughter. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I'm going to start college. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to walk the stage, and I'm going to do my best to stay as dedicated as I can to my kids, because I was already on a roll and I was popping out one baby after another after another. So I was like, I cannot stop now. We got to keep going. And so me and my fiance have been co-parenting, and we've been communicating consistently, and we were able to get into a house. So we moved out of like our first apartment into the second apartment, and then we moved into a house. And that was through no vouchers, no subsidies, no assistance. That was just through raw dedication and pushing the pedal to the metal. And in our house, that's when I gave birth to my final daughter, and she is now 6 months. So it's been a roller coaster of emotions, a lot of maturing along the way. But since it was so rapid, I had no choice to not give up, because if I give up, then I'm giving up on all my kids. So it took a really big step for me and my fiance, both for him working consistently and staying on top of the bills, and both for me as a parent living with my lived experiences, learning to heal my inner child through my parenting, as well as working and doing school. So it took a lot out of me. I wear many different hats, but I do my best to wear them well.
Yeah. I love that. Keona, one thing that I love and admire about you is that not only do you juggle all these things, and we talk about that, like I feel like moms or just like, parents in general do a lot of that. But one thing that you also do really well is that you are so true to who you are and also true to the work that you do. Like, it doesn't matter what space you're in, you're talking about or you're advocating for people who are not in the room. Um, and so I want us to like backtrack just a little bit and kind of get into a glimpse of like why you got into this work, and whether it be like personal experience or it be things that you saw in your community or whatever it is, like what did your journey look like pre having your first child, and then how did that kind of propel you into the work that you're doing that's like such amazing work? um yeah, what do you want people to know about that?
Yeah, so what I would want people to know about my life before advocacy is that the struggle's real, man. Stuff out here is hard, especially for youth coming from like unstable households. And, me growing up in the foster care system and having parents both mixed race and in the mental health system, and struggling with like financial stability, it opened up my eyes a lot to like how the system truly views youth and families when they're struggling. So before I entered my youth advocacy, I was in and out of the foster care system. I was on the streets doing a bunch of hooligan stuff. I rolled with the wrong crowd, had a bunch of bad influences. So it was kind of like a coin toss. I got to see the bad side of everything. And now that I flipped my life around, I'm starting to see and reap the benefits of doing good. But what I really want people to know is that, it really takes a humble beginning. I wasn't able to achieve all of this overnight. It took a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of loss, and a lot of people that tried their best to help me along the way. I know when I was a rebellious teenage youth, I saw a lot of my friends die in overdose. I was very disrespectful and talked back to a lot of services and people that try to help me. I've turned my back on my parents numerous times when they tried to be more receptive to working with me and having me come home. So, it really is a journey that is really specific to a lot of people in their personal journeys and their personal struggles. But I know mine, for one, is not the most honorable, but it is something that I learned from, and I made something beautiful of it.
Yeah, yeah. You talk so much about like sacrifices and the struggle. And like you said, the struggle is real. And you toned in a lot about like a lot of your physical labor and your physical, stress and responsibility. I like to touch a little bit about the mental side of things, balancing school, going back to school, still working, former foster, homeless, and being a parent on top of it all, and co-parenting, maintaining relationships, like all of the things, all of the caps, But I want to talk a little bit outside of your physical labor and responsibility and tone in a little bit on your mental health and how that shifted, through your multiple children and kind of pre-pregnancy and where you are now with your mental health.
I know when I was a younger teenager version of myself, I was rebellious. I didn't really care. I didn't prioritize my mental health at all. I just wanted to escape the reality that I was in. I was finding comfort in substances and rebelling, and seeing the people around me just, suffer because I suffered so much. I just didn't care. So my mental health when I was a teenager was very bad. Once I became a parent, it shifted in a way that was very impactful for me, because I was still spiteful. I was still angry. I was still mad at my parents for what they put me through as a child. And now I was becoming a parent. So it had to shift because it's either I'm continuing that or I'm changing that. And I realized changing that takes a lot of work that I realized my parents wanted to do but didn't have the resources to do. So that's why I'm so strong in my advocacy work today. And I know as I progress with like each child, like after my first son, my dad passed away of COVID in 2020, and that tanked my mental health. My dad and my mom, they were abusive to each other for like 20 years. It was a really unhealthy relationship that I was kind of the byproduct of, and I always felt like I was a burden because of that. So like when my dad passed away, I felt like a burden was also lifted because he's like no longer there to hurt me and my mom. And also a burden was placed because he taught me about like how to survive on the streets. Like he taught me how to always take care of myself, or like the hustler's ambition. Like he basically put me on game, and I really respected him for that. Like he was my true OG. And his dying wish to me was always take care of your mom no matter what, you and her are going through, always make sure she's straight. And he passed away. So when he passed away after I gave birth to my first son, it really put into perspective for me that, wow, I really need to grow up. Because at that time, I was also fighting with my fiance and thinking like, oh, well, this ain't going to work out. I'm going to go my own way. And he was really like persistent on like, if we truly want to be the change we want to see, we need to stick together. And since I was still really rebellious and just didn't want nothing to do with anyone, like I wanted to go down that route of just being a single mom, being independent, thinking I could do it on my own. I don't need nobody. But then reality came crashing down on me quick once I realized a dad's no longer here. I'm about to be a parent. I got all this stuff I got to do in order to be the change I want to see. Like, I really need to buckle down and lock in. So I did that. My fiance and I, we co-parented. We fought through the struggles and the rain and the rainbows, and I was able to support and take care of my mom along the way. But it still impacted my mental health. Like after I had my youngest son, and we had my dad's first memorial, that's when it really started to set in. Like, wow, he really ain't here no more to get in my butt and tell me, oh, this is what you need to do, or oh, you acting a dang fool, you need to get your head out your butt. Like, yeah, my mom was there too, but I feel like my mom and my dad were both the reason why I struggled and both the main source of my support. And actually learning to depend on other services and other people really taught me how I needed to open up and not rely so much on my trauma, because I feel like I was living too much in that victim mentality to really see the blessings that were truly in front of me. So I was able to get into these programs. I was able to get into these apartments, and then I ended up having my oldest daughter, and she is a spitting image of me. She is my twin. And I remember when I was in therapy, my therapist would tell me like, would you say that to your younger self? The way you talk about that, would you say that to your younger self? And my daughter, she looks just like me. And I was just like, dang, like I truly am healing, because I'm starting to see that now. Like when my parents used to get in my butt for acting rebellious, they used to be like, you gonna understand when you're older. And my dad used to always tell me like, your mouth writes checks that your butt can't cash. And I was just like, okay, now it's starting to make sense. Like I wouldn't want my daughter acting the way that I was acting. I wouldn't want my daughter to say the things that I was saying to myself or about myself. So it really started to put into perspective, like solidified my purpose here, and no longer feeling like a burden, but feeling like a blessing and doing my part. And then with my youngest daughter moving into like our house, I felt like wow, like I really am doing the right thing, and this is, my calling. So it feels like it's a balance, because I have my two boys, my two girls. I feel like they're the true symbolism of like balancing, harmony and chaos. And it's really improved my mental health so far, but I can't just say all the good without mentioning the bad. Like there's times where I felt like I was a burden, it was too much, I was suicidal, depressed. I felt like my kids were better off without me because I didn't get along too well with my in-laws because of my previous experiences of being homeless and not having a job and not graduating. I was already seen negatively by my in-laws and people around me. So it really was an emotional roller coaster, and I felt so alone. But it wasn't until I opened up and I saw it through my children's eyes how much I meant to them. I truly wanted to stay here and be the change I want to see for them. But even when I do reach those low points, I just look at my pictures of my kids and I'm just like, I can't see them grow up without me. I gotta be here. I'm in good health. I got a good job going. I got good things going for me. I can't just throw it all away because I feel some type of way. I gotta be there for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and your rawness. I think people need to understand that they're not alone, right? Like no matter where they are in their journey, people need to know that there are other people out there who are in the trenches with them, who maybe just crawled out of the trenches, maybe they're just crawling in the trenches. So I really appreciate you just kind of shedding light on different parts of your journey. I think one thing that you said that stuck with me that you said your therapist said is would you want your daughter to talk that way? And I know I saw something some weeks ago where it was like, be careful what you say about yourself because your children, whether it be your daughter, your son, whatever, will grow up being told that they look just like their mom
Mhm.
or they act just like their mom. And if we're putting out that that's a negative thing, then what does that tell them about themselves? So I really appreciate you for highlighting that because that's something that I have battled with probably my entire life. And same thing, like just being really rebellious and just out in the streets, just doing stuff, right? Like stuff that you had no business doing, but why are you doing it? I think that people need to understand that a lot of times, like especially teenagers or young people, are not just trying to be rebellious for no reason. Like they're hurt. I can say we, like we were or we're hurt, right? Or there's something that we're seeking validation from. And maybe that person gives us that validation, or maybe that action gives us that validation. And so it's not necessarily just that we're woke up one day and chose this lifestyle, right? It's done for something. So I also really appreciate that. And I think I have a follow-up question for that. Of just like how are you instilling in your family and in your household, like while still battling it, right? Like mental health or um, just dealing with trauma and processing all that, that's a daily grind,
Mhm.
regardless of where you are in your healing. It is a daily grind. At least it is for me. So, how are you showing up as a parent while also healing, while also trying to prepare your next generation to not follow in those same things? How are you balancing that? How are you doing that?
That's a great question, Brandy. I'm still learning myself, but I can say what has worked so far. I can already start by saying my parenting style is like a mix of Bernie Mac and Miss Rachel. So I try to balance love and logic, man. Like
Love
if
that.
my kids be doing some crazy ish, I mean, I call them out on it and I have them do safe hands because. In the past, like I was in heels, like, I used to pop them on their mouth if they cuss or talk back to me. Now I'm like, safe hands. We're going to talk about why that's not appropriate. And please don't say that again. So it's been a roller coaster, like sometimes I hear my dad or my mom saying like, that's crazy, what's wrong with you? Like I remember hearing them say all the bad things they used to say to me when I used to act up. And I'm kind of being that shield and processing that and saying things that I wanted to hear as a child to my kids. So it's even brought it's been so prevalent to the point where even where my kids see me visibly frustrated and breaking down, they will sit with me and be like, Mommy, safe hands and close your eyes and breathe. So now I can see in my kids that they're trying to help me regulate because I sit down with them and I do those breathing exercises with them or I do yoga with them in the morning. And since I'm busy, I don't get to do that all the time. Like I try to work out and do yoga with my kids at least once a month, but even that time, like one time out of the month, they've remembered it and they've applied it to every time that they've been upset both with each other and me. So it shows me the importance of the just even trying with your kids, even if you think one time out of the month ain't enough or you're not doing enough, they remember and it works. And whether you think what you're doing consciously or subconsciously, they catch on to it both good and bad. Because I notice when I get frustrated, I clench my teeth or like, I hit myself in the head or I'm just like, like breathing really heavily. I notice my kids start doing that when they're frustrated too. And sometimes I someone to be like, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I hate myself." And I'm just like, he's doing that because he's heard me say that when I've been at my lowest point. So it's really is like looking in a mirror when working with my kids, and I know that it's healing these generational curses that have been placed upon me. And even at that, my parents tried their best with what they knew and what they worked with, because even looking back generationally, it's a cultural thing, it's a society thing. Like there's a lot of reasons why parents just drop the ball when parenting kids. And there's a support there's a system that's made to work against parents instead of with them. So that's why I center a lot on my advocacy work, the good and the bad and the ugly, because it's hard out here for us parents, but no matter what we do, our kids see it, good and bad. So I try my best to be as transparent as I can about it with them. And even when there are times where I do snap and I'm just like, hey, like, I'm sorry for getting upset. Like, please forgive me. I'm still learning too. Like, they're really receptive to that, and then they do the breathing exercise with me. I do the breathing exercise with them. Or if they get upset with me, they'll come to me later saying, hey, I'm sorry for my actions, I was very upset. So we get what we give, and I feel like I'm giving my kids the best that I can give, just like my parents did with me. But hopefully, it's better, and I won't know that unless they tell me, because I depend highly on my child's input. All my kids, I ask them, what can I do better? Oh, you play with me. Oh, help me brush my teeth. Read me a bedtime story at night. Like, as a youth advocate, I speak for children, but I also listen to my own children, because that ensures the authenticity in the work that I do, both inside and out.
So
Yeah,
true.
I really love that. I really love that. I mean, me and Brandy talk about all the time, kind of that mirror dynamic with our kids and the mom guilt that comes with it from them, learning these bad habits or behaviors or whatever. But I really appreciate how you emphasize the importance of, apologizing to your kids, because again, that also teaches them, no matter, you're going to make mistakes in life regardless, but being accountable, apologizing, and then them learning to, when they make a mistake, to come apologize to you and come heal that side of you that is navigating that frustration and parenting. So I really appreciated that side of things. I know a little bit before the last question, you mentioned like you dealt with some struggles navigating like your relationship with your in laws. And I don't know the whole background of that, but I was wondering if you felt comfortable sharing a little bit about that. And if it was, I think you said some misconceptions from your background and your history, and how did that play a part in that relationship with them? And were you guys able to get past that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something I'm still working through. My in-laws, like my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, there's been some ups and downs regarding just the role that they play in like supervising my kids. Sometimes it's like unsolicited advice, or if I don't allow them to see the kids because either I'm going through something or my fiance is going through something, the immediate threat of like legal action and grandparent rights, like that right away is going to make me put my defenses up. In-laws overstepping boundaries is a real issue, and that is something I'm still working with. I know my fiance, he has two older sisters, so he's the only boy. So they were really protective over like who he was with and what he was doing. So in the beginning of our relationship before we had kids, I was scrutinized quite harshly over, my background and my ambitions and what I wanted to do in life, because my fiance, he was valedictorian. He was on the varsity football team, and we met after he graduated high school, because I dropped out my sophomore year, but we both knew each other and we talked on and off, and we reconnected and we confessed our feelings and we decided to start dating. And then I got to meet his parents, and I told them about how I'm struggling with my parents. I'm struggling to graduate. I don't have a job right now. I'm struggling with mental health currently, but their son has been a really great support for me and being the foundation in bettering my life. And they seemed to be receptive to that, but it was his older sisters that seemed to attack me a bit more because they thought I was a negative influence. So once we started to have kids, it was kind of emphasized a little bit more, to the point where they thought that they could show up uninvited to birthday parties, or they thought that they could just talk to my kids at my in-laws' house without telling me. It's been a push and pull, kind of like a power struggle. But at the end of the day, I know I am my my kids a legal guardian, and at the end of the day, like, I have the say so on what happens to keep my kids safe. So if my in-laws do ever try to take legal action, or um my sister-in-laws want to try to say that I'm an unfit parent, I know at the end of the day I do me, and I do it very well.
Okay.
And do.
And
Hmm.
did.
And do. Um, that is super important. That is one thing I want to just like pause at, right? Because I think when you're young, there's already so much stigma associated with being a young parent, and then there's already this misconception that like you're not going to do anything if you need to take a pause for mental health to raise your children, whatever it is, like you're not going to be able to finish your education. You're not going to be able to get a good job. You're not going to be able to give a life to your kids, and that's BS. Like I call BS because we're all doing it, right? It may take more time, it may look different, but we're all doing it in different ways. And so we're going to go ahead and debunk that first of all before we move on. Um, and then the other thing is that the input. I love how you said unsolicited advice. I feel like I cringe with the idea of unsolicited advice because I think again as young people other people think that they know more than we know. And you don't know my child more than I know just because you raised a child or just because you are older or whatever it is. Like there's a lot that I probably have more knowledge about than you do or just in life stuff. And so I think that that's important to highlight too, that if we don't ask for, your opinion or for advice or something, we probably don't need to walk in with it. We probably don't need it or want it, right? And if we do, we'll ask, and we'll only ask if it feels safe to do so. And then the third thing that kind of stuck out from what you said is this whole idea of like being parented while parenting. And I think a lot of young parents, no matter if they're teen parents or early 20s or whatever, feel this because whether it be like the elders in your family or it be the elders in other people's families, in-laws, whoever, they think that you still need to be kind of raised and
Mhm.
taught how to parent. And that puts, I think, young parents in a really tough spot because it doesn't matter if I'm 15 years old, like now I have this role to take care of this child. And so I'm parenting. And so how do I balance the dynamic of being parented and also parenting? And I know Divine talks about this, on the website and talks about this a lot. And I know this is a big topic, but I just appreciate you, Keona, for highlighting that because it doesn't matter if it's your own parents or community leaders or in-laws or whoever, it oversteps when we feel like we're not able to parent on our own, and it also gets in the way of how our dynamics are with our children, right? Because I mean, I'll say my mom and I have grown from this a lot. I think in the beginning she didn't really know, she was a teen parent and then I was a young parent, and so she didn't really know and she thought she needed to raise us all. But I think now it's so funny because now my mom is like team me again, right? Like she's just team whatever you need. Like forget them kids, right? Like whatever you need is first. And I think that it's nice to be back at that point, because people forget about mom or dad or whoever, and it's all about, oh, what's best for the kids. Like, yes, I'm trying my best for the kids. Like, shut up, So I think that that's great, and we're coming to that place where even my daughter will be like, I'm gonna call Mimi on you. Call her, do it. See if she can come pick you up too, because
Mhm.
bye, so I just appreciate that, and I think people need to know that, and we need to have more conversations around that, more candid conversations about stay in your lane and I'll stay in mine. I won't parent your kids, you don't parent mine. And that's important. But switching gears just a little bit, not really. I think you talked a lot about just kind of growing up and your dad teaching you things and the streets teaching you things and your relationship with your fiance teaching you things and all of that. Can you talk about some of the like coping strategies that you use when you feel like your mental health is struggling or you're needing more support, and also some of the like survival tactics that you've developed over the years that you now adapt in your parenting day to day?
Thank you, Brandy. That's a really good question. Like, I think my answer to most of these questions is I'm still learning. I'm just going. There's like literally not a handbook for like parenting. And the ones that are out there, I mean, they just don't touch on like what are we're going through personally. I know for me, what has helped me is lots and lots of journaling, even when I'm depressed or I think I want to hurt myself. I write down how I feel. Sometimes I write letters to my dad. Sometimes I write letters to my mom. Sometimes I write down all the bad things about myself, and then I try to write down all the good things about myself. I'm very spiritual, so like whether it be like the full moon or whatever phase the moon is in, I will burn it all and kind of just pay homage to myself for living through all these challenges. I like to plan. I like to I have a little whiteboard. Sometimes I write down quotes for myself. Sometimes I plan for the month. Sometimes I make it a to-do list. Just really writing down my thoughts so not everything bottles up in here really does help me regulate. I also know video games help. I game with my fiance a lot, like online multiplayers, like GTA. Like if I really feel like crashing out and doing the dumb stuff I did as a teenager, I can go on a rampage in GTA with my fiance and be Bonnie and Clyde for a minute. So which
Yeah.
is really fun. I also like to play like role playing games like Final Fantasy, like just playing in a different world, mastering different arts and stuff. I like playing the instrument. I played a lot of violin and viola and cello in school, so that really helped me. And I also know smoking weed as an adult is okay. It's legal here in Arizona, so whenever I feel like I want to de-stress or remember my dad, I could smoke a joint in remembrance and bring myself back to the situation with a clearer mind. Because I know, for me as a parent, a lot of things are going 1,000 miles a minute, 1,000 miles a minute, one idea after another after another. I'm overthinking. I'm criticizing myself. I'm carrying guilt. And if I'm able to step away, have a drink, have a beer, or smoke a joint, I'm able to really just calm down and regulate myself. And I feel like that helps me be more present as a parent. I'm not condoning like making it a habit of doing that every time you're stressed, but really taking the time to treat yourself in some way that helps calm you down, whether it be journaling, smoking a joint, playing the guitar, playing a video game, going on a walk. It's okay. I feel like us as parents, we carry too much guilt and trying to be too perfect. We really close ourselves off from basic human connection. So I feel like a lot of my strategies have really helped me. And there's times where none of it has helped me and I've just sat in bed all day or I've cried or I've just cried in the shower or just buried my head in a pillow and just felt like just not wanting to wake up. It's okay. We're only human and I want to be, the first person to say like it's rough for us as young parents, especially being a mother of four and working on my relationship with my mom and having my mom living with me and healing both from my inner child and seeing my mom be the parent that I wanted as a child to like her grandchildren. It's a lot of push and pull, but it's also a lot of forgiveness. And I really do prioritize taking the time for myself to really relax. And it's really to the point where, we shouldn't care whether or not those coping skills really are helpful to us because in the moment it's the best that we can do before resorting to something worse. So we're only human and it's okay if you have to do what you got to do to feel better because you can always do something worse.
Absolutely. I really love that. I love all of it. I love that you have like so many different positive outlets that you can turn into. And I love how you also brought awareness to like, it may look different, every situation, every coping mechanism, every period looks different in the different stages that you experience. And I, of course, loved the buzzing topic that I know we'll get a lot of feedback on, but for 20 friendly parents. Okay. We did talk about this in a previous podcast. of myself who was also 420, and still in the midst of like balancing conversations with my child, because how I grew up, that is not condoned, and it's almost like I have to be in secrecy with it. And I also like how you said, obviously, like prioritizing your mental health and prioritizing like your habits, making sure that you're not putting certain habits before, your direct responsibilities. So I was wondering if you have received any stigma with being a 420 friendly parent, and how did you deal with that? And do you have direct conversations with your children about it?
I haven't had direct conversations with my children about it specifically, but they do know that it is medicine. They know that it's mommy's medicine. I know I keep mine in my room in a lockbox safe away from my kids. So if they try to come in my room and I'm just like, not right now, mommy needs a moment, and they'll be like, okay. Okay, and then they'll leave. It's really basic, simple stuff. When they're sick, I give them cough medicine. They know if mommy's stressed, mommy needs to step away and take her medicine until she feels better and comes out, It's a really easy conversation for kids. I feel like it's easier explaining it to a kid than it is explaining it to an adult. Because, having a conversation with other parents, like talking about like how we cope with stress, everyone wants to give the basic answers, but really we know like if we were all turning up at a party, there would be a lot of stuff going around that of course we're going to want to turn up with. I feel like dismantling that stigma is okay, and it starts with casual conversation. I know I wouldn't want my kids depending on a substance every time they're stressed. So I know when they do get older and they start to be around other influences that are going to push them to consume substances, I'm definitely going to have a more detailed conversation with them. But for now, they understand that it's mommy's medicine, and when mommy's stressed, we take a step back and we distract ourselves, or we do something different. So when mommy does come back, we plan from there. I know as a young parent, and since I was like smoking since I was like 15, like I was going through a lot. I depended heavily on substances. And now that I'm a parent, I've developed healthy habits to supplement those urges and those bad habits. And it's been really hard. I've also been a smoker too. Like I used to smoke cigarettes, I used to vape, I used to drink like excessively. But once I had kids, like it really helped me tone it down and really regulate it more. And it's not something that I'm going to explain to my kids right off the bat, because I don't want to just spew so much information at them, especially like negative information that can influence them right at them directly since they're so young. It's something that they do understand that does help me cope. And it is something that they understand that isn't to be used or consumed until they are old enough to understand the risks and consequences that come with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for all of it. I think today has been a really good, like fruitful, just round and full conversation. I think, we touched on a lot of things, and we would love to have you back to talk about more things. I know we breezed over like postpartum, when we breezed over co-parenting and different things like that. But I just appreciate you for, again, your openness, your rawness, and all of that. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Any advice for young parents? Any final thoughts? Anything on your heart before we close today?
Yeah, so I actually have quite a bit. I always do. I have a lot with me all the time. But the main thing I want to highlight on is, forget the haters, the unwanted opinions, the in-laws, even your inner voice telling you that you're not enough. Everybody always has the buzz and says the most when you're at your worst, but when you're doing good, that's when everyone's quiet because they have nothing to talk about. I noticed, centering back on my previous experiences, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about me when I was homeless and struggling, but now that I'm an advocate and a present parent and a responsible adult, everyone's quiet. Just prove people wrong. It's lonely at the top, and even when it does get lonely, prioritize yourself, take care of yourself. There's hope and resources out there, and if you feel like there's no resources out there, definitely advocate for them. I know another issue that's really present is not enough fathers are able to have the capacity to participate in these spaces as much as mothers are because of the consistent need for work, the consistent need to provide. I feel like there should be more young fathers present in these spaces as well. And I highly encourage them to speak out and reach out because they're just as important as the mother is. It takes two to tango, and everybody deserves to be present in the development of our children. That's what I advocate for in all the spaces that I'm in. And if you need to step away to smoke a joint, cry, or, pour one out for the homies, it's okay. We're only human and we're trying our best. And I hope and pray that there are more spaces available for young parents to come out and speak about their struggles and their triumphs.
Yes.
Touche.
Yes. Thank you so much, Keona. You have definitely been a breath of fresh air. It's been so lovely getting to know a little bit more about you. And I hope we continue to learn more about each other. I feel like every time we chat, we're always learning something new about one another. And like you said, it's so important to have these spaces to dismantle all the stigma and really tone into what every day looks like for these young parents and be able to, make the change from within ourselves to help others that are going through similar situations. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure. I hope to see you guys and be on the podcast again soon. Thank you.
Yes, we'll hold you to it.
Yes, will.
Until next time, thank you all so much. Check out Yup, check out Keona on Yup, check out all the things that we have talked about. We have content on. So we thank you all for viewing and listening, and we will be back soon.
If you enjoyed the Up podcast, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment.
And visit youngunitedparents.org for the information, community, and resources young moms and dads need to thrive.